And just a short time after that, Danny Tarkanian switched. He's joining us this morning. Good morning. Thanks so much for being with us. We appreciate it.
Well, thank you, Michael. Thank you for having me on.
Man, the President of the United States, I don't care what anybody thinks about a president, whoever it is. That's a big deal. My jaw dropped when I saw that. Did you have a conversation with the president before that tweet went out?
Actually, about 2 weeks ago, I had a call and I missed it. I didn't know who it was from, and I listened to the voicemail and it said, "The President of the United States would like to speak with you. Would you please call me back?" And I thought, this is a joke. So I called back, and the lady answered like she was a secretary. Well, she answered and she said, "I'm the scheduler for President Trump. He'd like to speak with you, but he just went into a meeting. He'll call you right back." I didn't hear back from him, so I had my wife call after hours to see if the lady wasn't just making it up.
Oh, I would too, because I'm so cynical. Shout out to Amy this morning too.
Yeah. So she called after hours, and it was a voice recording, said the same thing. And then I checked with my friend from Senator Paul's office, and he confirmed it was the president. But I didn't hear back from him for 2 weeks. And then what happened? It was the craziest 36 hours I've ever had, and to be quite honest, it wasn't the most enjoyable. But on Wednesday at about 5 o'clock, we had announced I was going to file for the Senate on Thursday at 3:30. Right. On Wednesday at 5 o'clock, I get a call from President Trump's new campaign manager for 2020. His name is Brad, and I can't pronounce his last name. But anyways, he says President Trump is on Air Force One, and he just wanted me to relay a message to you that he thinks it would be best for his America First agenda if I would not run in the U.S. Senate seat, instead run in the congressional seat and let Dean Heller not have a primary. And I spent over an hour and a half explaining to him why I thought that was not the right decision. Wasted my breath because he's not the one making it, but right. I had to vent some frustration. I told him I would think about it.
But,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
But then you did it. It was really instant. As I was telling everybody, I cut a promo talking about it, and you changed your mind by the time I got to the parking lot. So,
it all started Wednesday night when he made that call, and I told him I'd have to think about it. And I got up in the morning. I talked to my wife. I talked to my mother. Then I had a meeting with all my volunteers and staff. I explained to them what happened, and to every one of them, they said, "Yeah, you should do it." But there was I required one thing. I said, I haven't heard this from the president. I don't know for sure. I mean, obviously I don't want to offend the guy. I said, right. I need him to make a public statement saying this is what he wants, because this is not my idea. I did not want to do this. Right. But if the president of the United States tells me to do it, then I'm going to follow his directive. He's also the leader of my party. So when I was probably going to do it. I was going to do it if the president made that announcement that he made that at 10 o'clock. And you're right, at 12 o'clock we filed.
So let me ask you this. Your heart was in running against Heller. You don't think much of Heller, obviously, because you want him out. And so why would somebody feel that your heart is in this for Congress? This isn't something that you wanted to do.
Well, I was going to run for the Congressional District 3 seat before I got encouraged, and in fact, many people were pleading with me to run against Heller after that Obamacare vote. So it was something I'd already had planned on doing about 8 months ago. But you're right. You get your mind and your heart, mind, and soul into something, and you put your blood, sweat, and tears for 8 months campaigning against someone. And I mean, I like Dean as a person. He has an engaging personality. I just don't agree with his flip-flopping on positions and his lack of conviction and his lack of support for President Trump and his America First policies. But when the president of the United States asks you to do something, and he's the leader of your party, I grew up in a basketball family. When the coach tells you to do something, you may not like it, but you need to do it, and that's why I did it.
You grew up in a basketball family. I had no idea. I'm being facetious, of course. Just in case somebody goes, you don't. But here's the key for me, though, is that how do you get behind a guy that you're not a fan of? How does the president get behind a guy who is not supportive of him, like Dean Heller?
Your second question is the million-dollar question. Yeah. I can't understand why President Trump made the decision he made. I understand that Mitch McConnell and the people, the establishment back in D.C. was putting a lot of pressure on him to do this. But I've always heard he was a very loyal person, and he also held grudges. He seemed to put both of those two aside in regards to this decision. Again, I can't question him. I didn't get a chance to talk with him. This is what he wanted. How do I do it? Because you look at who's better. You have two options. Well, assuming he wins the primary, and I assume he will, there's still three other people in the race. Then you have two options. You have him and you have Jackie Rosen. And as much as I may disagree with Dean Heller's flip-flop and his lack of convictions, he would be a better senator than Jackie Rosen, and you got to do what's best for our country.
Tell you what, I want to hold you over real quick for another segment. Can
Sure.
you do that? All right.
Absolutely.
We're talking with Danny Tarkanian, who was going to run for Senate. He's now running for the House. This after a tweet and it gets about as direct as anything when it comes to Donald Trump. When it comes to a tweet, and as Danny was pointing out, the president asked you to do something, you got to do it. What is Danny Tarkanian going to do for the people of Nevada? What does he think his chances are of winning? Got that for you coming up at 7:44. 7:41 right now in Wake Up Las Vegas. Here's traffic with Izzy after the president, basically tweeted him that he wanted him to do that. What do you have that you're bringing to this House race that's different than what you were doing for the Senate? I mean, that was a quick switch.
Well, I'm the same person. I'm going to bring the same things. You're going to have somebody who believes very strongly in the America First agenda, taking care of the American people first and foremost, American businesses, bringing back jobs, securing our borders. I believe very strongly in that. But I think the more important thing is what people are so disappointed in politicians now is they promise one thing when they campaign and they go back to whatever office they're elected and they vote the complete opposite. What you're going to get from me is somebody who's going to keep his promises when I get elected. And I got the courage and the conviction to stand by those decisions. I did that when I stood by Donald Trump in 2016 election when everybody else abandoned him.
Right. I've
been a fighter my whole life. I'm going to fight for these positions. I'm never going to give up. And I'm going to be the voice for the working class, hardworking Americans that haven't had a voice in Washington, D.C. in decades.
How are you going to appeal to people who are non-Trumpers? You are solidly side by side with the president. As a matter of fact, this morning, just a short time ago, since you've been on with me, I don't know if you know this, but you got tweeted by Brendan Sario. And he tweeted to your wife, Amy, your husband is a team player and seems like a great guy. I'm running for state senate in California, and you have my support. So it's about team player.
Vote.
Well, yeah. I think that's against the law. I'm not sure. Yeah. But, you've got to be able to appeal to people who don't stand with President Trump and disagree with his tactics.
Well, see, this is the thing. I believe there's a lot of people out there that don't like how Donald Trump handles himself personally, some of the statements he's made, and maybe some of the personal decisions that he's had. But I think the vast majority of Americans believe in the America First agenda, and I've always said that all along. Who doesn't believe that the American people here should be taken care of first and foremost? Our veterans should have everything they need. They put their lives on the line to secure our liberty, and instead we're spending money overseas to countries that hate us. Who doesn't believe that we should have secure borders?
Right.
Even the Democrats in the early 2000s voted for that. It wasn't until Trump made the wall an issue did they come against it.
Well, let me ask you this: what could President Trump do that would make you say, you know what, I disagree with this?
Well, I disagree with a couple of things. He said that he wanted to take away people's guns without giving them the due process first. That's
what the hell was that about?
I don't know, but I would not have agreed with that. And I don't also believe, I believe we've got to find an answer to the dreamers, and we can do that after we solve the problem of making sure people aren't coming in illegally. But I don't believe you should give citizenship, the most precious gift we can give anybody in our country, to people that hadn't come in the country the right way. There's the legal residency and permanent status and so forth. But I disagree with him on that. There's some things I have disagreed with him. Hey, I disagree on him increasing the military presence in Iraq after what is it now, 17 years?
Yeah.
I mean,
matter of fact, just started 17 years ago Saturday. I think it was.
At what point are we saying all the money we're spending overseas, we should be putting, not all of it, but at least in some of these wasteful areas like this, we should be putting that back into taking care of the people here in America. We're complaining we don't have enough money for Medicaid recipients. We don't have enough money for health care. We're not taking care of our veterans. Well, let's use the money that we're wasting, this continuation of the Iraq War, for those purposes.
Let me ask you this finally too. You've taken a bruising already going up against Heller and his campaign because of the financial issues and the management of this basketball charity. That's not going to go away. It's going to be a bruising campaign. Are you ready for that? And what are you going to say?
It's all fake news and lies. I discussed this earlier with you on your show, and anybody who understands the circumstances, when I go out and I speak to whether it's women's clubs or the men's clubs in the Republican side, I explain what happened, and every single person, they're aghast that this allegation could be made and how low somebody has to be to make those allegations. So that's the worst thing about Dean Heller and his campaigns are the lies that they made up in a Republican primary against a fellow Republican. I've been in really tough campaigns. Every time I get into one, the establishment spends millions of dollars lying about me, and I have to defend these lies. I came within 1 point of the last election of beating Jackie Rosen in the most expensive race in congressional 2016 elections. This is a non-presidential election. Instead of having Trump on the ticket, we're going to have him as the president of the United States. With all of the policies that have been in place and that are now working, I believe very strongly I can overcome that 1%.
And so let me ask you this then, finally, when you're talking about that, you've lost before. What makes this one even more different with you as an individual? Forget Trump, at this point. What makes you think you are the guy right here, right now? This is going to be different than the times you've run before.
Well, I lost by 1% a presidential election in the most expensive congressional race after beating Michael Robertson in the Republican primary, where I was outspent 4-1, and I was beat up on TV, and I was completely broke. This election, I'll come into the general election. I don't believe it'll be a real vicious primary. I believe I'm going to have most of my money still intact. This will be the first time I've ever ran that I didn't have to spend all my money in the primary and get beat up by a Republican establishment candidate. Then I'm going to run again, which what I think is what people are going to vote for: an economy that's going full steam, people happy with their lifestyle, and I think they're going to vote for the people that will continue those policies.
You're in a hell of a lot better mood than the last time I talked with you. I think you're into this. I definitely think you are.
The last time, and I apologize. I wanted to call you too off the air and apologize for being as testy as I was. But I think when people look at, I did something to benefit the community, which is continually benefiting the community at my own financial expense, as Tarkanian Basketball Academy. And then when a despicable ad like Heller's group put out there that makes you look bad like before doing so, it bothers you. And when your kids are seeing it on the YouTube station and the Instagram station, it affects you personally.
Let me tell you something. If you wind up winning, you're going to have to start thinking about the fact that when Air Force One lands at McCarran, you're going to be standing there with Dean Heller, so you're going to have to smack a smile on your face. Danny Tarkanian, thanks so much for being with us, man.
Thank you, Michael. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. 7:52. Let's get you straight over to traffic with Izzy J here on Wake Up Las Vegas.
Live from